human being. As human beings, we are built to have interpersonal contact. So when we don't have that interpersonal contact, things can start to shift a little bit for us in ways that might not be positive. Now, just because students may or may not be in school doesn't mean that there would always be that negative impact. But when we don't have human contact at all, that's where the negative impact can come about.
So what are some of those benefits that kids would get from being in a school building and interacting with their classmates and their teachers?
When we're children and we're interacting with other children, that's how we learn to be adults. We learn how to settle our differences. We learn how to take turns in having conversations. We learn what interrupting is. We learn how to say, no, I don't appreciate that you said that or that you did that. We learn how to do life by being children first. And so some of this is being thwarted for them in some ways that could be made up for later, but just depending on the child, depending on the age, depending on whatever the situation was before COVID-19 came, that is going to impact how much this is beneficial and how much this is detrimental.
So a couple of things to balance here. I'm sure that's what school leaders are wrestling with right now, guys. But Dr. Funderburk said even having a Zoom conversation is more beneficial than having an over-the-phone conversation because you can read someone's body language, you can pick up on those cues that they might be giving, and of course you don't get that over phone or email.
Right, and I think really no matter what decision is made, Maddie, especially for Guilford County schools, right, whether they are going to do the in-person or they're going to do virtual, there has to be that personal factor, right, between the student and the teacher just to have a full rounded education. We do need that social interaction. So if we can do it virtual, at least that's one aspect.
And I think it's super important for, every kid is different, every person's different. Mm-hmm. And so for some kids, that social interaction is just as, if not more important sometimes than what they're learning in school, because some kids may need more of that than others. I think it's, some limited time back in the classroom might not be a bad thing.
Yes. And coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to talk to Dr. Funderburk. Of course, guys, we're talking about some big changes when school does go back in session. If they're in the building, they're going to have to follow some new rules. And then if they're at home, it's all online learning. So Dr. Funderburk is going to walk us through some ways to prepare students for those big changes. Well, let's turn now to your 4 to 5 roundup this Monday afternoon. Another street mural is complete in Greensboro. Say It Loud is now on Lindsay Street from Murrow Boulevard to Yanceyville Street. The art is the third project approved through the city's new street mural program, and of course it was inspired by James Brown's 1968 song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Our drone Redbird 2 got an aerial view of the mural this afternoon. The road reopened this morning at 7. Mike Ditka says it is unpatriotic for athletes to kneel during the national anthem. In an interview with TMZ, the former pro football player says if you can't respect the anthem, get out of the country, to paraphrase his strongly worded remarks. His playing career ended in 1972. After that, he coached in the NFL until 1999. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1988. The U.S. closed a consulate in China after rising tensions between the two countries. China ordered the mission to close last week, retaliating to the U.S. closing the Chinese consulate in Houston, Texas. This marks a significant escalation in the multiple disputes between the countries over trade, technology, security, and human rights. The U.S. has 4 other consulates in China and an embassy in Beijing. Well, starting today, people traveling to D.C. from several states, including North Carolina, will have to quarantine for 14 days after they arrive. The mayor of our nation's capital says travelers from 27 high-risk states will need to isolate if they're traveling for non-essential activities. The restriction is similar to that of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
North Carolina remains in phase 2 until at least August 7th. And until then, you are required to wear a mask in public and when you cannot social distance. Now, if you do need a mask, WFMY News 2's Candace Redd is sharing how and where you can get one for free today.
As you know, the state of North Carolina is requiring the use of face coverings to help slow the spread of COVID-19. It's all part of the state's Safer at Home Phase 2 plan, which is extended until August 7th. Again, that date being August 7th. Well, health officials say cloth face coverings can reduce the release of infectious particles into the air when someone speaks, coughs, or sneezes. Face coverings, however, are not a substitute for staying 6 feet apart, washing hands, and staying home when sick. The city of Burlington is teaming up with the Alamance County Health Department and the United Way of Alamance County to hold a free face mask giveaway. The city plans on giving away a total of 30,000 face masks. Each person will receive 2 masks. Well, people can also request another pack of 2 masks for a family member or friend if needed. Well, Peter Bishop is the Economic Development Director for the city of Burlington, and he says it's vital for all residents to have access to a mask to help fight the COVID-19 crisis.
We want to move forward and progress as a community and stop some of these more recent surges that we've seen in North Carolina and in Alamance County with some cases. So we think it's important to get masks out to our citizens, to do it quickly. And that's really one of the key goals was to get something that we could turn around and get to our citizens in response to the executive order.
By the way, the free face mask giveaway is a drive-through event to help ensure proper social distancing measures. But if you do not have a vehicle, you still can attend the event on foot. Taking a look at your screen as I want to ensure you have all of the details. The mask giveaway is today from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at North Park on Sharp Road in Burlington. Well, if you cannot make it to today's event, the city will be holding another face mask giveaway tomorrow. And you can find all of those details on our website. That's WFMYnews2.com.
Well, there is another mask giveaway happening in Greensboro on August 14th, a way to help your kids get ready to go back to school. Family Services of the Piedmont is handing out free reusable children's masks from 11 until 1 at the Families First Center. You can drive up front to the building to pick up a mask.
For anyone needing a coronavirus test, there is free testing available in High Point this week. It'll be from Wednesday and Friday, and it will be located at the High Point University Community Call Center at the Oak Hollow Mall from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Now, this is an indoor testing event, so you will need to wear a mask. You can walk in, but it is faster if you do have an appointment. You can schedule that appointment by calling the number there you see on your screen.
Well, our temperatures today, anything but cool, aren't they? The humidity's been bad. I mean, it's a summertime forecast, but we're several degrees above normal and maybe even more than that for tomorrow before we do cool down back to normal. Thank goodness by the weekend. We'll get to that in a minute. 95 in Burlington right now. We have 91 in Greensboro and Winston-Salem at 92, High Point 94. It's a scorcher today. We expect to be in the mid 90s tomorrow as well. Lows tonight 72. You will not see as many thunderstorms tonight as you would normally see on a summer evening. This is kind of a dry patch, but we're getting into back to a more normal situation tomorrow and some elevated rain chances as we head into possibly Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. A few thunderstorms tomorrow evening and afternoon. Today, most of what we've seen is to the west of the area. You can see that on the satellite radar combo here. Again, around Surrey County, we had some heavier thunderstorms in the southern sections of that county. Otherwise, we're okay. You may see a spotty shower or two, but nothing major at this time. High pressure remains in control of our forecast, and we see those storms coming in tomorrow afternoon. We'll look at our 7-day forecast, talk about a cool down for the weekend in just a minute.
Well, before we head to break, late Representative John Lewis is now lying in state in Washington, D.C. He'll be there today and tomorrow. His casket will then be taken to the Georgia State Capitol in Atlanta on Wednesday. Representative Lewis's funeral is on Thursday at Ebenezer Baptist Church. You're taking a look at video of a horse-drawn carriage that carried his body across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama on Sunday. That's where state troopers beat Lewis and other peaceful protesters as they tried marching to Montgomery in 1965. We'll be right back.
All right, I am talking about, how to help your teenagers deal with disappointment, particularly if sports don't come back. Got some tips for you.
A Triad school is already making changes to the upcoming school year. River Mill Academy in Graham is canceling all fall sports. Now, the school posted the announcement on its website. The charter school says the fall season is canceled because of coronavirus, but no other information was provided on the website.
Well, as we have recently reported, many Guilford County parents and students are rallying for high school athletics to start again in the fall, and many teenagers, of course, are still disappointed that their spring sports were canceled when the coronavirus pandemic started. Now, fall sports are in question, and that is, of course, adding to their disappointment. So Blanca Cobb is here. We're going to talk about some ways to help teenagers deal with that disappointment. So Blanca, what's a mistake that parents are making when they're trying to help their teenagers feel better about that disappointment?
A lot of times parents will say, don't worry about it. You're going to be able to play again. You just have to get over it, move past it. Sometimes a parent might say, you just got to suck it up and move on. And as much as a parent might think that they're really being encouraging, they're not. And the reason it isn't is because the teenagers need to feel that anger or that sadness or that apprehension or just that angst of disappointment of not being able to play. It's part of growing up. It's part of learning how to deal with strong emotions. And that's why it's important for parents to really let their children have at it with their emotions.
Right. So what are some things that parents should say instead?
They should validate those feelings and say something like, it does stink. I know how hard you have worked and you want to get back on the field, but unfortunately you can't do it right now. It's that validation. So when you validate how they're feeling and what they're thinking, what you're doing as a parent is you're opening up that communication, because your kids are going to want to talk to you because they know that you get them, you understand them.
Right. And so often we see teenagers, they trend on the negative, saying things like, oh, this is never going to end, or if I don't play, I'm not going to make a college team. So what are some ways to address that negativity in your teenager?
This is a great life skill for everybody, and that's just to find the silver lining in any situation that isn't fun or happy. What is it that they are doing? One example could be, even though you can't practice right now, I am noticing that you're going out and you're running because you're wanting to keep up with those skills, make sure that you're staying in shape. It's that positivity that you want to point out to them, and eventually they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember mom and dad talking about the positive. Let me find the positive in the negative.
Right. So if high school sports are pushed back in the fall, what are some ways that teenagers can cope with that?
This is a great opportunity for brainstorming between parent and teenager. What is it they can do? What skills they need to practice on? And how can they do it at home or in the park? Hey, you know what? You can even call the coach or email the coach and say, hey, no one can do anything, but what can I do? Do you have any ideas? That outreach to a coach would go a very long way. They'd be happy to hear from you.
Yeah, Blanca, some great tips there. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you missed any of that, by the way, we'll have it for you on our website, WFNYnews2.com. The 4 to 5 is coming back right after this break. Stick around.
So maybe you at home are feeling it. Zoom fatigue. You are just tired of all of those virtual meetings, and you may not be alone. I am in your camp as well. Time to connect the dots.
If you're getting burned out from all your video calls and meetings, you're not alone. Turns out there's some science behind why it's so draining. Let's connect the dots. Believe it or not, video chatting causes our brains to work harder. Scientists say it takes extra energy to process nonverbal cues, things like facial expression, tone, and body language. Another contributing factor, when we're physically on camera, we are very aware that we're being watched. That social pressure is stressful for a lot of folks. And for a lot of us, work and family are happening in the same space. It's mentally exhausting to not be able to fully separate the two. So if you miss your next Zoom meeting, just tell your boss it's for your mental health. And that is connecting the dots.
So I feel that if I tried that at the next Zoom meeting, it probably wouldn't go over as well. What I've come to find out is I don't like feeling stuck, right? Because you feel like you just have to be looking at the camera the whole time. So sometimes I'll just get up, I'll bring my phone with me, and I'll just take a lap around my living room during the meeting.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that Zoom burnout just in the last few weeks. And one of the things was mentioned right there in that story. It's that I can't separate work from home physically as much as I could before all of this. So I kind of feel like even when I'm at home and off the clock, I still am at work. And that's just really weird. I think that burnout comes on sooner because of it.
It's hard for me, as these two can attest, that I can't sit still at my desk for very long. I'm always up and going, I have to come back, work a little bit, get up and walk. And so the same thing happens to me here. And Tahisha, I know you can't see me right now, but when they came back to me, I was like, I had my head in my hands. Like, oh, because Zoom does wear me out. I agree.
Yeah, and even this right now, just talking to you guys in our little triple box situation we have here, our Brady Bunch boxes is what I call them. It's hard because I want to see you face to face, and that timing that we have and just getting to stand next to you. I miss that.
It's true.
Well, more of the 4 to 5 is coming up right after this, so stick around. Log in on Facebook. We'll virtually chat with you there. Chilton, wake up. We got a show to do, buddy. We'll be right back. Welcome back to your 4 to 5. 300 people were evacuated from their homes in Hawaii as Hurricane Douglas passed over the islands. Now, some counties could still get hit by strong winds and surf. Douglas is carrying winds up to 90 miles an hour as a Category 1 hurricane. Evacuees were told to bring masks and hand sanitizer in order to be welcomed into shelters. They'll have to wear those masks unless they're eating, drinking, or sleeping. The health department contacted more than 600 people in quarantine or isolation, and every one of those individuals said they would shelter in place and not go to a shelter. President Donald Trump issued a state of emergency for Hawaii and deployed federal assistance to the state.
Hurricane Hannah is hitting Texas right now after storming through Mexico. Bob Hall Pier on Corpus Christi was destroyed by the hurricane. The heaviest rain fell along the border. Corpus Christi's mayor said no one needed to be evacuated in this case. In the meantime, parts of Mexico are underwater after Hannah slowly passed over on Sunday.
Well, radar-wise, we do have a couple of pop-up showers and storms across the area, not as widespread as what we usually see. In fact, the majority of this has been in the western half of the viewing area. You take a look right now, we do see a little bit. Let's scoot this over toward Wilkes County area. That's where we're seeing some of the heavier thunderstorms, also moving into Yadkin County as well. So Forsyth, get ready. You may see a little bit of that as well. Again, most of this is concentrated in the northwestern sections of our viewing area. Doesn't mean you can't get it if you're not there. It's just more likely, at least at this point. Let's show you that 7-day. We promised you that last time. Here we go. 94 tomorrow, a 40% chance of late day shower and storms, otherwise partly cloudy. We hold basically the same forecast from a sky condition, partly cloudy with late day storms all the way through the 7-day, but rain chances are better Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as we cool down at least a little bit each day. 91 Wednesday, 90 Thursday, 88 Friday, and we stay in the upper 80s through your weekend with a more normal forecast by then. The 4 to 5 continues in just a minute. Stay there.
Check, check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Mic check.
Good afternoon and welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner here with Eric Chilton and Tahisha Moyes. Kind of standing in front of you, Chilton. I'm sorry, man. I know you want your screen time here. Thank you. We're here to inform you, make you feel connected, and let you into our world. So join our conversation. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Our hashtag is 4 to 5.
It's one of our top stories today. City of Winston-Salem pools may not reopen this season after 2 employees tested positive for COVID-19. Now, the city opened its pools earlier this month with restrictions, but now all employees are isolating. WFMY News 2's Grace Holland has more on what it would take for the pools to reopen.
This is Bolton Pool, where those 2 employees who tested positive worked. Now, some good news. We're told that they are both in good condition, but the news for the pool is not so good. The city had hoped to reopen by Tuesday. Unfortunately, it looks like that's not going to be the case. Bolton Pool is actually one of the more popular pools in the city. This is what it looked like just a few weeks ago, with lower capacity and people wearing masks when not in the water. The city's assistant recreation director tells me the pools will require a deep cleaning to reopen, but for staff, it's more about time, with the end of the season fast approaching.
So based on the amount of staff that we have after we've done our isolation period, we'll determine if we're able to open up pools. So we'll have to evaluate that in the next couple of weeks.
Leah Friend says many of the lifeguards and staff are high school and college students, which means it will likely lose some of those staff members when school starts back in the coming weeks. Now, Bolton Pool actually usually stays open the longest of any of the pools in the city, staying open until Labor Day. Friend says the hope is to be able to get all the pools reopened this season.
Well, every school district's plan for the upcoming year looks a little bit different, but one thing remains the same across the board. There will be changes, and that may be difficult for your child to understand or handle. So I spoke to a licensed professional counselor, Dr. Nanette Funderburk, about ways to prepare your student to go back to school.
With additional time and improvement in COVID-19 metrics, more families will select in-person learning.
It won't be perfect, but it will be better than when we had to turn it around over a weekend in mid-March.
So kids have been out of school for a couple of months now. Many of them may have not even seen their friends over this break. They're going to possibly go back to classrooms soon. How do we prepare kids not only to go back to school, but also to get them ready for all of the changes that await them in the classroom?
So you want to give them the information that you have sought out firsthand versus just allowing them to hear some things, whether it's on social media or friends in the neighborhood or just overhearing a conversation. Sit down and have a conversation with them about what you know school will look like for them once you do know what school will look like for them. Because just like we are kind of sitting and waiting and can't wait to finally figure it out, they kind of want to know too.
Why is it better to be upfront about it? And does that lessen the burden on their mental health than just throwing them back into these changes?
So you want to be upfront with them so that, number one, they know that when you come to me, I recognize, okay, if they're saying it, I can believe it. I can start to act based on what you've told me, and I don't have to worry about if it's really something different. So it starts, or it continues to build what hopefully is that foundation of trust that was there with the parent. As you're continuing to talk to them about whatever the changes are that are going forward, they'll recognize that, okay, mom or dad said this, I can bank on it.
Right, and with 21 days until the school year starting, it might be time to have those conversations and just be upfront with your kids, as Dr. Funderburg said.
Right, and some of the other school districts have announced their plan, so I'm sure parents are having those conversations. But for the parents of a Guilford County school student, they are still awaiting on the Board of Education's decision tomorrow, and then that turnaround time, only 2 weeks to get fully prepared, guys.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you were saying with the parents and kids is so true, that you have to establish that trust, that dependability. That actually gives the kid that foundation of just almost like a calm, like, I know it's going to be okay, mom and dad are taking care of it. And whether kids, they will never admit this, but they really thrive in a structured environment more so than they do not. So I think getting back into that classroom is going to be crucial for a lot of them.
Right, and she was saying the way that you handle these big changes will dictate how your child really handles them, because they're sponges and they can pick up on any kind of nervous energy or stress that you have. So if you act calm, cool, and collected and just calmly explain what's going to happen in a few days to them, it might set them up for a more successful school year.
It's kind of like one of those fake it till you make it. Do it for the kids so that they see you being calm under pressure and they can handle it better too. Senate Republicans are preparing to unveil the second phase of a second coronavirus aid bill, I should say the final phase there. So that proposal would cost roughly $1 trillion, but what would be included in it all? It would also offer a second stimulus check to Americans. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said those checks would be expected to be distributed here in August. The bill is also offering billions of dollars for schools and assistance to unemployed. Negotiations, though, have stalled over unemployment benefits because Democrats want to extend that $600 in federal aid, but Republicans are offering to replace up to 70% of a worker's earnings. Republicans want to avoid people staying home, saying that drawing unemployment for some would be earning more than heading back to work.
Right, so I asked you on my Facebook page what you thought should happen with the next phase of federal unemployment payments. Let's take a look at what a few of you had to say this afternoon. Rebecca Carter says, I pray they let them keep the $600 a week so they can survive this pandemic and keep their homes. This is not their fault. They lost their jobs and the government should pay them back some of the money that they paid in. Peggy Moore said, if they don't want to do $600, I understand, but people need at least 70% of what they were grossing. Most people don't want a handout, but a hand up. COVID is a world pandemic, not the public's fault. Bob McNeely said they should go away completely. People are making way more on unemployment than they were making with work. Sonia Sawyer's ad, it should be less. People are refusing to go back to work because they can draw more, making unemployment. There are several businesses in Mount Airy that can't find anyone willing to work because of this. Why not give incentive to those of us who have been working and continue to work during the pandemic? Finally, Al Smith said, cut it all and then people will go back to work. So that's one of the ideas that people are proposing here, that if you are not paying those additional pandemic unemployment benefits, it will encourage more people to maybe go out and apply for a new job. This is not state benefits, by the way. This is just the federal money.
Right, and it's kind of a hard decision either way, right? Because you have people that have not had a job since March, have had trouble getting a job, not that they aren't trying, right? And so they are really depending on that extra $600 to make rent, to put food on the table, to maybe buy school supplies for their upcoming school year for their kids. So it's really a tough situation either way. So I'm anxious to hear what will be the final decision.
Really is. I'll play devil's advocate for a moment, because the flip side of that is everybody's so worried about the economy. In the long range, what would the effect of all of this money that they're giving out to everybody? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm the first one to say, yes, okay, that'd be great. I'll take some. But I'm worried about our economy as a country later on. What will the ripple effect of this be 5-10 years from now? We don't know, really.
Right, and we've done stories in the past about several local businesses who had a hard time rehiring their staff because they were making more on those unemployment benefits. One commenter pointed that out. So it's a wait and see game. This is all entangled together, the stimulus, the unemployment, the aid to businesses. So it's a wait and see moment, and Congress is about to go on summer recess. So we got to get this thing going, and we got to get it going fast. Well, if you are looking for a job, Guilford Works is offering some free online classes for people who are currently unemployed or furloughed. The program has more than 3,000 college university classes available, and they say it's a great time for anyone who is out of work to enhance their skills. To register, go to guilfordworks.org. That registration ends September 30th.
All right, forecast-wise, we are looking at some numbers, aren't we? And they are up there. Look at Columbia, South Carolina, 94. We always talk about that being very hot, especially around the 5 Points area there, if you're familiar with that neck of the woods. 93 in Charlotte, 91 right here in the Triad, at least at the airport where our official records are kept. Raleigh's at 96, a little cooler coastside, Myrtle Beach at 88. All right, planning forecast for you overnight tonight. 72 for the overnight low. I think we'll be in the mid to upper 80s by lunchtime, pushing up to that high of 94 degrees. That's 6 degrees above normal. 6 doesn't sound all that bad till you think about 94. That's not good. Late day thunderstorms, better chance tomorrow than today. We're seeing a little bit of it today, but it's really spotty, hit or miss. Mountain communities getting more than anybody else, and most of that because our winds are coming along from the southwest, so that pushes that air right up the mountain chain. Look for highs tomorrow, 94. Good news is we'll start to cool it down. We'll take another look at our forecast coming up. We're back to normal by the weekend, but rain chances are going up.
Before we go to break, we want to honor the life of late actress Olivia de Havilland. She's a two-time Oscar winner and starred as Scarlett O'Hara's rival Melanie Wilkes Hamilton in Gone with the Wind. She said the role of Scarlett did not interest her because the role was very similar to her own personality. She won the Oscars for The Heiress and To Each His Own. She died in her home in Paris. She was 104 years old.
I check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can you hear me? All right.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. Let's turn now to your 4 to 5 roundup. Target is joining Walmart and will close all stores on Thanksgiving Day this year. It ends a long tradition of getting a jump start on Black Friday doorbuster sales. In a statement, Target said that deal hunting and holiday shopping can mean crowded stores, and this is not the year for crowds in light of the coronavirus. The CEO also says the closures will allow team members to spend the holiday with their families. Greensboro gas prices have fallen 6 cents per gallon in the past week. The average is $1.92 a gallon. That's more than 16 cents less than they were last month and nearly 60 cents less than a gallon cost a year ago. Nationally, gas prices are slightly up, seeing an increase of less than a penny. An industry analyst says it's the smallest rise we've seen since late April. She says crude oil prices are stable and there's an abundant supply of U.S. gas to meet the demand. The national average is $2.25 a gallon. That is 56 cents below the average at this time last year. The Greensboro Public Library will no longer charge late fees. The new policy starts on August 1st and will also forgive any outstanding fines. The library director says they're following guidance from the American Library Association that says fining people does not promote responsibility for returning items on time, and they find the fear of fines makes it less likely for people on limited income to use library services. The policy change also means people will be allowed to use the library computers even if they have outstanding fines. Customers are still responsible for paying for lost or damaged materials. And what's up, Doc? Bugs Bunny turns 80 years old today. The U.S. Postal Service is making the 8-decade milestone with a commemorative stamp. They'll dedicate the stamps in a virtual ceremony today. Bugs has always been known for his impersonations and disguises, so each stamp will feature the bunny in his most memorable get-ups.
Health experts are suggesting a second shutdown for the United States as coronavirus hotspots continue to surge. Doctors and health experts say that the country opened too quickly and they want to see non-essential businesses close and people stay home again. Jalen Gilkey joins us now. And how are people responding to news of a possible second shutdown, Jalen?
Yeah, Tahisha, people are going crazy over this one. We have over 600 comments on Facebook. We can go to our first one. It comes from Will. He says, should have happened months ago. Bill, he says, reopen North Carolina now. Matt, our next comment says, I would love for us to go into a lockdown for 7 weeks, then gradually reopen at a 5-week span. Mariana, she says, nope, we will have to deal with it in some ways. Anyway, people just need to keep distancing and be careful. And our last comment comes from Melissa. She completely agrees. She says, yes, we should shut it down.
Yeah, this is interesting, Tahisha, that medical experts are saying this because initially we were told that shutting down the economy was to flatten the curve so we wouldn't overrun hospitals and have a drain on resources like ventilators and ICU beds.
Right, and if we are getting to the point where that could happen again, that's probably why they're saying, okay, let's have that second shutdown. Mentally, I will say it would just be very hard on a lot of people to go through that. Again, we're still recovering from being shut down for so long before, and then you still have businesses, bars and gyms here in North Carolina at least, that haven't been able to open since March.
Right, we're still waiting on many businesses, as you say, to really enter into phase 3 so they'll be allowed to open their doors. So just piling more shutdowns on and completely going backward, that would be very disheartening. You bring up a good point there about mental health and just how bad that could be for a lot of people.
Right. You know, I covered that story about overdoses and people turning to addictions, you know, in these times. So I worry that that will happen even more if we do go into a second shutdown.
Well, the 4 to 5 is heading to break, but you are free to share your thoughts on our Facebook page, our Twitter feed, or on YouTube. Just use our hashtag 4 to 5. We'll be back.
Thank you. Hi there. Oh my gosh, is this a mic check from inside the building? Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas.
Hello, check it, 1, 2, check it,
WNBA players made a statement Saturday before the season opener. The Seattle Storm and New York Liberty players walked off the court before the national anthem to speak up against social injustice. Now the players went to their locker rooms, leaving the court empty. One player from each team addressed the Black Lives Matter movement before the game and dedicated their seasons to Breonna Taylor. The teams then held a moment of silence for 26 seconds to represent Taylor's age when she died. As sports begin to pick up again, I feel like this is something that we will start to see players make a statement in their own way.
Yeah, athletes have a very large platform, so if they do feel strongly about social injustices or anything that's happening in the world, they certainly have the ability to speak out and have that message seen by a lot of people.
We're going to see more and more of this. I think it'll be different ways, maybe not the way that was done, but we're going to see a lot of this. And I think Tahisha's is right. The more that sports opens up, the more opportunity it does allow for these type of things to happen and to make a statement. So we'll be watching, because I can tell you sports people are wanting their sports back. Yeah, that's for sure. It is a definite need. Let's talk about forecast, because we have a couple of showers and thunderstorms out there. Most of this is the western half of the viewing area. Look at the radar right now. Just wanted to show you that if we zoom in, it's kind of more of a Wilkes and Surrey County type situation than it is anywhere else. You can see Yadkinville getting a little bit of that rain. That's also moving in. Let's scoot the map down a little bit. Moxville is seeing some of that. And if you look at where all this is coming from, a lot of it is developing because our winds are out of the southwest. They're forced to rise along the spine of the mountains really there. And so you get that lifting. We call it orographic lifting. Basically, it's where the winds have to follow the land and they're forced to rise up and cause showers. So those thunderstorms in the Lenore Hickory area may be moving east. So we'll be watching that into possibly Davie County as well. I want you to look at the long range, because let me give you short term first. So overnight tonight, what few thunderstorms we do see in the early evening hours, I don't think we'll have to worry about that late into the night. We'll drop down to about 72. Now, with the winds coming in out of the southwest, you can bet it's going to be hot and humid. So a muggy start to your morning tomorrow for sure. I think your step out temperatures, if you have to go anywhere, would be around 72 degrees. We rebound up to 94 tomorrow. Now, a normal high, you see at the top right corner of the 7-day, is 88 degrees. So we'll be 6 degrees above normal tomorrow. The difference in tomorrow and today, maybe a couple degrees, but the rain chances go up from a 20% today, which is pretty mild, 40% for tomorrow afternoon and evening. That's normal, but an elevated rain chance, that's a 50-50 shot for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Now, that's only in the afternoon and evening, typical timing for summer. But our temperatures, thank goodness, dropping down. We'll take every degree. 91 on Wednesday, down to 90 by Thursday, upper 80s on Friday. That's 88. And this weekend, we hover right where we should be, upper 80s with a slight late day shower or storm chance.
Coming up at 5, Guilford County leaders are expected to announce their plans for the upcoming school year tomorrow. Hear one parent's thoughts about high school students returning. It's next.
Yes, mic check. 3, 2, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Voices all season long.
Hey,
This is
buddy,
nothing
check 1,
new
2,
for
3,
these women.
4. I am
They
your
have
weather
been proactive
dude.
when
1,
it
2,
comes to
3, 1,
speaking
2,
out
3.
on social injustices for the life of the W.
Hi there, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona. I'm in the freaking studio.
So if you're like me, there are things you struggle with, but I would say number one on my list, outside of my forgetfulness, is lack of exercise. I go through spells. I'll do it for a month or two, and then I won't do it for 6 or 7 months. And I do it every month. That doesn't help, does it? And the older you get, the harder it is. So if you're like me, a lot of us think like, well, if I'm not just giving it all I got and I'm sweating until I can hardly breathe anymore, I'm not getting a workout. Finally, a friend of mine recently said, not true. By the way, it was a doctor. 20 minutes. 20 minutes a day. And the older you get, the more valuable that 20 minutes is for what it can do for your health. How about this? I read that if you can get your heart rate up just a little bit where you're breaking a small sweat, and for me, that's walking down the street.
If you do that, it actually increases the size of the area of the brain that's associated with memory and learning. My forgetfulness, there might be hope. And only 20 minutes a day. And appreciating nature. They said that's what it's all about. If you go to the beach, just take a walk on the beach. If you're at home, walk out into the woods and just kind of look around. A 20-minute walk to appreciate nature and the beautiful area that we live in here in the Piedmont region of North Carolina. That's it, 20 minutes a day. It can clear your mind, and goodness knows, with pandemic and social unrest, there's so much anxiety right now. In addition to school and kids and our normal lives, don't we all need a break? And it's hard to realize sometimes that the answers to some of the hardest situations in our lives are usually some of the easiest things to do. But that's just my 2 cents. And that's your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts now.
Thank you very much to the people of North Carolina. We love being here. Thank you.
President Donald Trump just wrapped up a tour of a North Carolina facility making parts for a COVID-19 vaccine.